Hello, everybody. It's me, your J Street, Jennifer McCray. How y'all doing? Been gone a long time. Been doing a lot of busy stuff and had surgery, but I'm back. Okay. Or like T-Ball said, I'm back. um, Today we're going to do our video on why do black parents still whip their children as a form of discipline. So I've got a little, I've got a little thing to show you about. Hey y'all, y'all know what today is? It's Entertain Yourself Wednesday. Make sure to show. You know how we do. I got a crew today. I got to drive to school, but today is a different day because I have to do a presentation at school. So I'm working on my presentation skills right now, and I had to elicit some help because I have three girls at school just presenting with me. So I got my kids today in the Entertain Yourself Wednesday. So today I'm gonna teach you how to beat your kids. You can't just be beating all over them. You gotta tell them why you're beating them, while you're beating them. I told you not to do whatever. Anyway, kind of that's the reason why some of y'all's kids be falling out in Walmart and they falling on the floor and carrying on. Well, you're supposed to kick them. I mean, pick them back up off the floor and do something that I call swoop and scoop, which I will explain to you with my assistance later. This is my son, Bryce, and we're gonna show you the cone whooping. Well, see, when your kids is kind of showing out, when you combing their hair and carrying on, Bryce, I said be still. Bryce, I said be still. I said stop moving your head, Bryce. You take your comb and just tap, 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 tap. See, it's all in the wrist. It's all in that wrist motion. That tap, tap, tap. But it makes them act right. I promise. They act right, and you come out perfectly from. The next one, come here. Come here. The next one I call is called the lean back. The lean back. Okay? When you got somebody, this is my daughter Brianna, she's 14 years old. You know, she's a nice little size, we about the same size. I can still take her because I'm not scared. We ain't never scared. Anyway, so what you supposed to do on that lean back, you notice she has everything all perfectly aligned. Well, when you lean back with that belt and you lean back here, they start to lean, right? You got to make sure that you got a good lean yourself. If you got to make sure that y'all are perpendicular and make sure that you got a nice little swing in your hips. You lean with the hips. It's like lean with the hips and lean with the hips and lean with the hips. See what I'm talking about? And then they get compliance. You get good compliance out of them. Thank you, my lovely assistant. Next, you got something called the swoop and the scoop. If your scoop ain't good with your swoop, then it don't work real good. I got my daughter Braille here, and see, you got to put your hand the right way. You can't have it flat because it won't work. You got to swoop it and scoop. So if you can make that their noise, you're not swooping and scooping just right. So whenever they sitting here showing out, you grab my arm, pick that arm up, so that way when they start moving all over the place, look that way. When they start moving all over the place, you can get them real good. So here it is, swoop and scoop. See that? Swoop and scoop. See that? And if they start to drop, they start to jump. You know, sometimes you gotta just jump with them. If they jump, jump with them. See what I'm saying? Swoop and scoop. Last but not least, I got my son. His name is Brian Phoenix. Now, what am I gonna do with this? See this? What am I gonna do with it? Answer me that. What am I gonna do with this? Nothing. But I tell you what, I'm the mama. He's 17, almost 18. I don't care. I don't care at all. Show out, run your mouth, pop off at the mouth. I do something called an attack. When you're doing the attack, you gotta make sure you're real rooted and grounded. Look that way. Make sure you're real rooted and grounded so they don't know what's about to go on. You just attack them. You just attack them up. What did I say? I said you gotta do what I said to do. And then do they think you crazy? If they think you crazy, they'll just walk away slowly. Like that. Entertain yourself Wednesday. I hope that was interesting. That was an interesting little, I guess we could say, characterization or cartoon. But now to the most to the serious aspect. According to the American Psychological Association, growing body of research about spanking and other physical forms of discipline, they could pose serious risk to the children, but many parents they don't hear the message. Um, and other studies have shown that physical punishment can lead to aggression, antisocial behavior, physical injury, and mental problems. Okay, and Dr. Elizabeth Kershaw says that physical punishment doesn't work to get kids to comply. So parents think that they have to keep escalating it, like you get those stubborn children that stop crying, they don't cry, and they whip them harder and beat them harder until it ends up being a child abuse situation, and the child is see by DCSF come to investigate and take the child to foster care. Um, but that's the sad part about it. I know that other research says that there was studies that were done on people, black people who answered the survey, said that 89% of them did physical punishment on a regular basis. So they whooped, we still call them whooped them on a regular basis. And they wanted to do it to maintain the, that the child is on the right path, that they don't deviate from, the path. And now, one thing about it is, we may ask, okay, we know black people, all of us black people know, we always laugh and joke about when we were kids and when we would get whippings and stuff like that, and how daddy or mom would say, go get the bell, go get the tree, they go and get the twig off the tree, and they get the biggest one, thinking that they're not going to get hit. And they send them out to get a smaller one. But most of the people that I've been associated with, who are in our community, African American black community, have been whooped. Okay, but guess what? Whooping it doesn't come naturally to us African Americans, because before the slave trade and everything, back before the slave trade in West Africa, they didn't whip their children. They don't whip their children in that culture in West Africa. What they do is that the elders will scold them or give them some responsibilities that they don't want to do, or make them take care of the kids, or make them do extra work that they don't want to do. So that's what they do in West Africa. And the beatings came about with the Europeans. The Europeans, they started beating their kids about 2,000 years ago. They've always beat their kids. They started out beating their kids, unlike the Africans. So black people, even though they practice it now, we'll talk about why in a few minutes, it was the Europeans who really saw their kids as little adults, so they just whipped them. And so when they got to the Atlantic slave trade, colonization, and just general enslavement, they decided that they would put their kids at a higher level in the 16th century, because they had what was that? After the Renaissance, the Enlightenment era, I think it was called.
So they had children as separate, not, as grown up people like they had them before. So, um, the when they got to these different when they got the slaves and they got the colonies all around the world, what they did, they treated the black people as lesser than. They treated them as though they were kids. So black bodies were always meant to be physically abused, be you an adult or you're a child. So that's where, and they learned it from, I know y'all heard about the Willie Lynch letter and all that. Um, and, how to break a slave. Um, but, reading my notes. Okay, so, um, but a lot of adults now attribute their success or their uh, nice family to having whoopings when they were little kids. It said it straightened them out. They knew how to act after that. But we said that the violence continued against the blacks. During slavery, they whipped them, right? During Jim Crow, they whipped them or beat them. And during what is it called? During the lynching, they lynched black people. They hung them up on a tree and they burned them, or they used their flesh after church. I don't know how they managed to do it after church, and it's still going on with police brutality, the juvenile justice system, and the prison system, and even death by police or whomever. And lately, there's been a rash of what they call adultification of black children. You've seen where those school officers, um, they beat the children, they threw chairs at the children, they manhandle the children in elementary school. So parents figure that it would be better under slavery and just in general if they whipped the children, then the master or whomever's in charge won't have to do anything to the kids, because during slavery they could be taken away from them. So they make the kids as compliant as possible. Okay. And they think that whipping will keep the kids off the street, away from gangs, drugs, alcohol, and early sexual behavior, to set them straight. Okay. Objects normally used in beatings are switches, belts, extension cords, shoes. And one of the authors that I was reading in the research, Stacy Patton, said that her mother was even more vicious. She made her take off all her clothes, then she would beat her. And she was middle class. She wasn't, low class or anything. And there's a physiological reason for not, whipping your kids. Of over 50 years of research has shown that hitting a child causes the body to overload on some really bad hormones, oxytocin and which causes early puberty development, and cortisol, which is your stress hormone. Too much of these, it results in girls developing puberty at an early age. So, if you got a young girl that's 7 or 8, and you whoop her all the time, like this lady did, her child, the child can grow up. She can be she would be 7, but because of the beatings and the hormones, she could start puberty like at 9 instead of like 11 or 12 like most girls do. And it also can result in early sexual behavior, and that's not good. And of course, if mom find that out, she's going to beat her for that too. So, um, ultimately, the whippings they consist of humiliation and fear that the black children face that are afflicted on them by their own mothers. Usually, it's the mother that raised the kids, right? It's the mother who humiliates, abuses, and whips the kid. And we talked about earlier, if the kid is not responding in such a way when they get whooped, they will get frustrated and beat them worse. Okay, so they most people will say, yeah, my mama, she beat me, she beat my butt, she did this, she did that. She got her extension cord. And this can lead to child abuse and them taking away your child, especially when you use extension cords and uh, belts and things that leave marks on your body. But most likely they leave them where you can't see the marks. Um, they don't like sock them in the head or sock them in the face, where it would be well seen by everyone. And the stress of being a single mother can also cause frustration in women when they whip their children. And it is what is called a intergenerational trauma, because it's all from slavery to now. Okay. Um, so basically, we talked about what spanking does, what it does to young girls, um, that you should not spank your child. Um, I'll tell you my story. My story is different. Okay, when I was coming up and growing up, and just in general, when we start talking about, you know, discipline, uh, and you're around black people, I found out I'm the only one that didn't get beatings. I only got two when I was a child. I got one when I was 4 from my mother, one when I was 7 from my dad. I'm sorry. But they didn't believe in whippings because they believed they were ineffective. Plus, they were middle class. My dad, he was in the army 21 years, so he knew how to use he knew how to use positive and negative reinforcement to, you know, get me to do what I had to do. So they were advocate of, I don't know, in psychology 101, it's called opera conditioning, and the psychologist who invented it is B.F. Skinner, and it says he believes you should treat your kids with either positive or negative reinforcement, but do not use punishment because punishment doesn't work. It only makes them more crafty and more hostile. So I'm going to tell you, when I grew up, I was an only child, and I had everything like only children usually have. And when I would mess up, dad or mom or one of them, they both gave me allowances. They would take away, they would use negative reinforcement in the beginning. That is, they would take away my the TV, take away time with my friends. I can't see my friends. I can't go to the movies. I can't watch TV. I could only sit in my room and do my lessons or read books. So that's negative reinforcement. But they would ground me, and it's called grounding too. And I'm sorry. Um, Negative reinforcement, they also usually went back after they would give me long groundings, like 3 weeks. So, and I would tell people I would rather have that 15-minute whipping than 3 weeks of being stuck in my room and not being able to do anything. So I was a Skinnerian raised child, and punishment, they just didn't believe in punishment at all. And I was also given positive reinforcements, especially when I was going to school or doing my chores. Um, my dad would, he would give me so much money for an A, so much money for a B, and zero money for a C because he considered that an F. So I didn't bring home any C's. Except in typing, I got a D in that, but he excused that because he said you can always get a secretary, so you don't have to worry about that. Mm. So, that's known as positive reinforcement. But just thinking about it, I I always felt left all out because everybody they were they were like I was a misfit because I was raised, you know, my discipline was different from theirs. And I wouldn't like to tell them that because they would talk about my parents saying they were too lenient and all that. And also another thing about that is a lot of the times the single mothers are poor and they can't take away things from them. They could take away the time with the friends and looking at TV most likely or looking at the internet. Uh, but they could use that, you know, as as negative reinforcement and giving it back as positive reinforcement. So scientists and psychologists, pediatricians, they advocate that you use the opera conditioning, which is the positive and negative reinforcement. Uh, when you want to when you want to whoop your child, don't just get real mad and start whooping on them because that's when you can abuse them and you end up losing your child to the foster care. Give yourself some time after you figure whatever the child did. Give yourself some time to think about it, and then you decide of which method of discipline you would like to use. And like I said, I recommend you've been in the mental health field for a while, positive and negative reinforcement. And I told you about that. But There's always ways you can do it. Just beating the kids, it's just okay. It's just not, it's counterintuitive. It's not good. Okay. So, that's what I had to say about, whipping children. And can y'all comment, did y'all get whippings as children, or did you get positive, negative conditioning as children? So it just depends. Just go ahead and put it in the comments what you did, which form of, discipline did you get? Reinforcement or whippings? Okay. I hope this helped y'all a lot. Thank you very much, and y'all have a nice day.